there, it's Phil Ratcliffe with Rebel Financial, and thanks for joining us today. Today we have a great episode for you. We're here with Michelle Jones from LifeCare Alliance. Thanks so much for being here, Michelle.
Thank you for having me, Phil.
You're welcome. Well, I've so enjoyed talking with her before we even came on. I almost couldn't even stop before we started. So I hope you guys enjoy this. They do great work. First what I'd like to do is just have Michelle tell you a little bit about LifeCare Alliance. I didn't know a lot. I'm really amazed at how big they are and the breadth of good work that you guys do, that you've been around since 1898. So tell us, educate us.
Okay, thank you, Phil. I love doing this. LifeCare Alliance was established in 1898 by Catherine Nelson Black. And at the time, she was the wife of the mayor, Samuel Black of Columbus, Ohio. And she brought in 17 of her friends and said, we need to take care of those nobody else pays any attention to. And henceforth, we started the Instructive District Nursing Association. So LifeCare Alliance really was the first in-home nursing here in Central Ohio.
And that's awesome. I think one of the things we were talking about before was I think a lot of today in our modern society in the United States, we think that there are just programs for people that are out of luck, like Medicaid and Social Security and different welfare programs. And back then, there really was nothing.
There was nothing for folks, and so they depended on the nurses tremendously.
Only the goodwill of good people like her, and that's it. That's all there was.
Yes, once that was established, the nurses would be in the neighborhood, and you'd see them with their bags and going from place to place. But then another thing that happened from that, one of the nurses went into one of the stores, and she saw this baby in the back. Because think about what time we're talking about. There were no daycare centers.
Sure.
So she saw this baby and it was covered in flies. And she was like, let me take your child and give him some fresh air and some, nice clean environment. So henceforth, with funding from the Columbus Evening Dispatch, we started something called baby camps. And baby camps were kind of like the first daycare centers here in Columbus. So they would get on this little bus, this trolley, and they'd gather up these children and they would take them out and they would have a fresh environment, clean air, just work with them just to make sure, because the mortality rate for babies at that time it was astronomical. So they just didn't live long. So then they brought the rate down, and we had a couple of places here in Columbus.
That's awesome. Again, that's probably another thing for parents these days. It's hard to imagine, somebody just says, give me your child. You're like, no. But back then, it was actually saving their lives.
It was saving their lives, yes, it was. So we did that, and then, we moved on from that. The nurses did an awful lot. As I was saying earlier, we had floods here in Columbus in 1908, and the Jane Tuttle, who was the head of the Instructive District Nursing Association, was put in charge of the fire and the police and all of the relief efforts.
Because Russell's organization was more organized than some of the cities at that point.
Probably exactly right. But Catherine not only founded our organization, she also went on to found the Blackman Guild Association, because there were a lot of immigrants coming through at that part of the town. So they had the milk dispensaries and all of those kind of things over near Goodell Park. And then she also went on with the Central Ohio Breeding Association, as we know it today, but back then it was called the Tuberculosis Clinic, because those were some of the things that people were fighting during that time. And then later on, back in 1921...
Sounds like the predecessor, almost like person that Eleanor Roosevelt probably looked up to, right?
So in 1921, she went on and she founded the Columbus Cancer Clinic, which was then the first screening and detection facility for cancer in the United States, that now is part of LifeCare.
Merged.
Yes.
A decade some ago, right? And that was actually something I wanted to talk about as well, because as we had talked about previously, I thought that was one of the coolest things that you guys do, because today, nowadays, obviously, I think for, since Reagan, the war on cancer's really been there. People are like, why haven't we beat this? But I think there's just so much big money in it, and there's not as much of how do we help people that can't pay,
Yes.
you know, or what's so. And I love, like, the first thing when you go to your all's website on that, it says, you know, we accept any kind of payment, but we'll do it for free. We're going to take care of people regardless, and I think that's awesome.
That is,
Yeah.
it really is, because, you know, cancer doesn't discriminate. So anybody can get it.
Yeah.
And when you are facing cancer, you don't want to have to navigate through all of the tons of paperwork that people do. So we take an awful lot of referrals. We do get a lot of referrals from the James, and we help people. We do screening exams down at our facility. We have a nurse practitioner on staff. She does head-to-toe cancer screening. And when folks come in to get there, we have a digital mammography unit, and we have a physician that works a couple of days a week to read those results right away, so people don't have to wait.
Yeah.
And they can know what's going on with them at that time. And you know, that's one part of it. That's the screening part.
Yes.
Then we have the healthcare part of it, where we will help people with prescription medications.
Okay.
We help them with rental and mortgage assistance.
That's a
We
big
even
thing.
provide transportation to and from the doctor's appointment. So those are the things that, you know, those are some of the
might not be
barriers.
covered.
Yes.
And like you read all these headlines with pharmaceutical companies, like raising the prices and
Yeah.
you know donut holes and all this stuff, and people can't afford what they need. Yeah, and that's awesome.
And then, so the other part of that is, if you're not working, we have a pantry. So folks can get food either delivered to their homes, or if they can have a family member pick it up for them. And the other thing that we do nutritional supplements. So we have the Ensure, the Boost down there for the cancer patients, and they can get that, and it's not in charge.
So people are pretty familiar with Meals on Wheels, and you guys were one of the first ones in the country to do that as well, right?
We were the second city in the nation, and today we will prepare and deliver about 5,000 meals.
That's amazing.
And we go to 5
Every
counties.
day?
Every day. Well, Monday through Friday in our outer counties, which are Madison, Marion, Champaign, and Logan. But in Franklin County, we do it 365 days a year.
And then what is like, I think I read it was like 2/3 like seniors and like 1/3 like children.
Yes,
And
we
what's
do
that?
some kids.
Yeah.
Because we do after school meals and, you know, latchkey meals and summer meal programs and things like that. And that's our Meals for Kids program.
Yeah, it's kind of sad to think about like kids being hungry or what's
Oh,
And it's interesting to me when people get mad about stuff like, why do these kids get free meals? I know that, but there's like, to get mad at some like small section of people that are abusing the system a little bit.
Yeah.
Like there's so many more kids. It's not their fault if their parents are not doing the right thing.
Right. We
You
did
know?
a story several years ago, and we went in and we were talking to some of the kids with the Meals for Kids program. And one of the counselors at the facility told me that one of the kids was just eating part of his meal, and he was putting the rest of it in his pocket. And she's like, why are you doing that? He said, because my brother's at home, and he's not in this program, and he won't have anything to eat tonight.
Man, that's sad. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And she's like, we're going to give you meals to come to your brother.
Yeah.
You eat your free here. And a lot of the kids that go to school every day, they have their lunch, their breakfast, and then some of them, if they're not part of a program, they may have to wait till that next day to get a really nutritional meal. So it's pretty sad. And if you don't get proper nutrition, how can you learn?
Sure. Sure.
Your stomach is growling, you're thinking about food.
Who knows what developmental problems that'll cause to the
Absolutely.
future as well too.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing to me that as wealthy of a country as we are, that those problems still exist.
They exist.
Yeah.
They exist. And not so far from people. People
Yeah.
think, oh, those are
Not my
poor
city.
people. That's not in my neighborhood. Food pantries are all over Columbus, Ohio now.
Yeah.
So,
We've talked to a couple, and I think we've got the Gahanna one coming in a month or so as well too.
yeah.
So, Tell me a little bit about that video you were telling me about the cancer thing that you guys just made. I thought it was an interesting story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had a gentleman who came to the cancer clinic. He was referred there, and he was from Sierra Leone. He was here for a wedding. But as he was here, he started telling his son that he was experiencing pain in his breast.
Yeah.
So he went to the James, and he went to this place and that place. He finally found his way to the Columbus Cancer Clinic.
Yeah.
And our ma'am technician there would not give up on him.
Yeah.
She kept testing him and talking to him, and finally they found out he did have a lump in his breast.
Wow.
And it was cancerous. And they made arrangements for him to have it removed at Mount Carmel.
Okay.
And he was here from March. He was only supposed to be here for 5 weeks, he told me.
Yeah.
But he just left a couple of weeks ago because after he finished his treatment, he could go back home.
Sure.
And when he told us the story,
Just 3 or 4 months, right?
yeah, he broke into tears.
And hopefully he'll live a long time versus maybe dying over there, right?
He
Yeah.
said, I don't know what I would have done had I not found the Columbus Cancer Clinic.
Yeah.
So it was just so moving, and he was so appreciative of the services. And we performed those services without him having to pay anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So there are so many stories I could share with you
Yeah.
about our clients, and how we've come in and we've helped them, and some of the things that we've done over the years.
You know, I was just reading another article, and I feel like a lot of society has gotten, maybe not on purpose like they're like this, but I think they've been victimized by other people that were trying to get on top, and everybody feels like they just got to get for themselves as much as possible. But there was a good article that I read that just said, if you just take a step back, they've got like a lot of statistical research that shows if you would just help some people, your life is so much better and more fulfilling, and you're happier. And it's like, it's not just doing something for somebody else and they got something, but your life is a lot better. And it's like, I think a lot of people are losing sight of that.
It's really something. That's why I always tell people, go out and deliver a Meals on Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Go just do it once. I know a lot of people are a little apprehensive because maybe, you feel uncomfortable going to their homes, but they have to understand that Meals on Wheels clients get a meal every single day. Somebody is there every single day around the same time. And I know when we go, especially in the wintertime, they worry about us. Now, honey, be careful. My porch is a little slippery, or are you okay? You make sure you drive safely. I can't believe you guys are out here on this day. It's so bad.
Yeah.
But, duty calls. You do what you need
So
to
when
do.
people volunteer to do that, do they use their own vehicles?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And then, so how do they keep the meals like warmer?
Okay. We have a really good system. When I first started LifeCare like 16 years ago, we had these Aladdin trays, and you could get like 3 stacks of these trays and a cooler to put in your car. But then, Chuck, being the visionary person that he is, he said, we got to figure out something better to do that. So we put a team of Meals on Wheels drivers, our kitchen people, and some of our administrative staff together to figure out a way to get the meals delivered, keep them warm, and so that they would stay warm during the duration of your meal travels. Well, before those Aladdin trays, we used to have a granite rock in the bottom of it that we heated, and you tied them together with this belt thing, and the heat would go up, but everything was in there. So when we would survey our clients, they were like, my dessert was warm, or my fruit was warm. So we have these bags now, these insulated bags that have a paraffin square in the bottom of them, and the meals are stacked in there, and they're separated through like a little board of some sort, and they're in like a larger pizza bag, for lack of a better term. They're on there. These meals stay so hot I'm telling you, because our meals come from Columbus.
And then you just separate the hot part from the cold.
Yeah, and well, we have a cold bag.
Yeah.
It has ice stuff.
And
It
they
has
just get
your
one.
beverage, and you have one bag.
Yeah.
And our meals leave here, and they go to, say, Madison County, Champaign County, Logan. Here.
Yeah.
They stay hot.
Yeah. Wow.
Because of that heating element. And one of the ways that we know they stay hot, because you have to do a trade test every now and then to test the temperatures of the food. And they always make the mark.
Wow.
They get out there. Then once they get there, they have to be delivered.
Yeah.
So, for example, in Madison County, they leave here to go to Madison County. Then they go to West Jefferson. They go to South Solon. They go to all of the places in Madison County, in London. And they stay hot. So that was one of the best, one of the good things that came out of our meal delivery. The other thing was, we used to put all of our hot stuff together. So you have your main meal, your meat, and then your vegetable. Well, older people are kind of like me. They don't like their food to touch. So now we have these 3-compartment meal trays that kind of keep everything separate.
Yeah.
So that's how we keep our meals hot. And I'm telling you, when you go, you'll have to have, we have little clipboards that we have to, with our routing sheet, you have to put that meal on that clipboard to carry it in the house, because you just can't hold it in there.
Yeah. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
That wasn't part of my original questions, but it just
Okay.
I bet that is an interesting tidbit for you guys to know as well too.
Yeah.
So, like you had mentioned, you guys have grown a lot and
Yeah.
merged multiple times, like 5 or 6 times, right? So, like, what's your, and you do a lot of different things now.
Yes.
So, what's your all's vision kind of going forward versus like how you started, kind of in one track?
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that LifeCare Alliance, as well as a lot of not-for-profit organizations, have to do is figure out a good way of taking care of ourselves. We cannot depend on governmental funding like we have.
Especially in today's
Especially today. So what we've done is we've launched a couple of social enterprise endeavors. We have our LA catering.
Okay.
So, you know, a couple of things we do very well. We do health very well, and we do food very well.
I saw you did that corporate. Is that?
Yeah. So now we have our catering services that has really grown. We have an event center, and all of the money that is made on catering goes back in to care for the clients of LifeCare Alliance.
So try to entrepreneurially fund.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done.
Yeah.
And so, looking forward, if you know, one of the ways that we started delivering meals in some of these outer counties was because they simply ran out of money and they were going out of business.
Yeah.
So Chuck, he said, everybody deserves to have a meal.
Sure.
That is a basic need.
Absolutely.
And whatever we can do at LifeCare Alliance to make sure that happens, we will make sure that it happens.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't go after these organizations. They came to us.
Gotcha.
You know, can you do this? Can you go to Marion County? Can you go to Champaign County? These older people are not going to have anything because these places have just run out of money.
So basically, when it happens, you try to help people if you can.
Yeah. So we've taken on everybody who's wanting to be part of us.
That's awesome.
And what we do, and the way we can do it and keep our costs low, is through our volunteers. We do a lot of volunteer recruitment. We do
got like 10,000, right?
Yeah, well, it's about 7,800
It fluctuates on that.
Yeah. So but we have volunteers that say, I only want to deliver meals on Christmas Day, or I can only do this.
But that helps for the people that do a lot. They can have vacation, right?
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, we have trainings twice a month for new volunteers. So we average probably anywhere from 15 to 20 new volunteers a month. And so then we can get them started on, you know, volunteering.
That people kind of go in and out. It's kind of like blood donating.
They do.
But if you get where you're low, you have a bank of people to call and say, hey, we need help.
And we have had volunteers that have volunteered with us for 30 years or more.
Wow.
I mean, it's like a job. They are so dedicated.
Yeah.
They know their clients, they like their routes, and they want to give back.
Yeah.
And I volunteer. I mean, we do what we have something that we offer businesses is called our Adopt a Route program.
Okay.
So anytime a company adopts a route for LifeCare Alliance, it saves us about $12,000. And the way we base that is
and
because...
then the company can rotate employees to volunteer every once in a while,
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the way we base that figure is because if we had to pay a part-time driver with their mileage and all of that, it would probably come out to be about that.
That's expensive, and then there's liability on that as well too, right?
Yeah. So they come on, they volunteer for us, companies. It's great. We marketed this years ago as a great team building exercise. And we still do that today.
Sure.
Because Huntington really kind of got this whole ball rolling years ago. And they would match people in the business on separate sides of the business. Put them in a car together for about an hour. Guess what? They start talking to each other.
Yeah.
They know each other.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't know each other before. And so now
That is
you
a good
have
idea,
a lot
yeah.
of camaraderie between your employees. And we do the same thing at LifeCare Alliance.
That's awesome.
We take our kitchen people and put it with our office folks.
So people get to know each other.
Well,
doing
then they can
something
see the fruits of their labor
Yeah.
too. You know, you're in the kitchen, you're packing meals, and you're sending them out.
Yeah.
Now you get to see the people that are receiving.
Appreciative. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just a win-win.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, you
yeah.
told us a little bit, but how can people help? I know you told me there was like a $5 million matching thing that you guys are trying to
yes.
fill up. So tell everybody a little bit about how they can help.
Well, we were blessed to receive from an anonymous donor $5 million endowment match. And what that does is any new or increased gifts to our endowment fund, that money can be matched dollar for dollar.
So you only get the $5 million if everybody else donates $5 million.
But
And the goal is to get it all, right?
Yes, the goal is to get it all. And what that will do is allow services for another 100 years.
That's awesome.
We've been around for 120 years. If we build our endowment campaign, our endowment fund, then we'll make sure that services that we're performing today will be here way
and
after
most
we're
endowments, for those of you that don't know, most of the time you don't just use the principal out of it, you kind of take the growth and it bemes another funding source like the entrepreneurial stuff that you're doing so that it's perpetual. Right?
Yeah. So that's what we're doing now. So you'll see things probably we've had things in the media about it. We're putting banners up. We are doing parties in homes, kind of quaint little parties, so that folks can learn a little bit more about our endowment campaign. We already have some folks that are on board with this, but just to try to really explain to them why this is important, why these services are going to be needed, because you have another group of older folks coming in, and
well, it's interesting how divisive the government is doing things versus when you have a nonprofit doing it. People are almost like totally on board. Like that's great. If the government does it, they're like, oh, handouts and welfare. So I'm not against the government helping. It's just I feel like we could get more of the populace on board to be behind things with people like you guys doing more of it, and
we're really happy because this was, I don't know that anybody other than a college or a university or a hospital that has received an endowment match as large as this one that we have. So we've been working real hard to try to make sure that we achieve this.
Well, good deal. Well, their website is lifecarealliance.org. Even if you just Google your all's name, I think as soon as I started typing in the ALL, it comes up pretty fast. So check them out. Volunteer if you can. Help them get that match of the $5 million. Deliver some meals. Thank you so much for being here and enjoying and sharing the good work that you're doing for our community. And it sounds like even expanding beyond just our local community in Windsor, and so that's great. So thank you guys for joining us, spending a part of your week with us. Join us next week. We're going to have Michael Lunt on with Parasol Media, talking about the power of video and getting your message out, whether it's nonprofit, for-profit, or something that you're passionate about. It's awesome to have somebody that's creatively minded, not just business minded when they're talking about marketing stuff, to come in and give you some ideas and show us a little bit about what they're doing. So have a super weekend, enjoy the hot weather out there, and we'll see you next week.